Hello and welcome to episode 29 of the Spotlight Games Pocket. 29? Is that right? 29?
Oh, yeah, 29. Ooh, boy.
My name is Patrick Schweigert, and I am joined by the sweetest boy this side of the Mississippi, Kamen Darty. Kamen, how are you today?
Patrick, I'm doing great today. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good. I can't, unfortunately, move my camera to show you, but when I introed this show, because I did it kind of loudly, both the cats that are on the windowsill right now just went.
Haha.
I didn't spoil their
love it.
cuddling. I didn't spoil their cuddling, but I did scare them. Kamen, you know,
Yes.
the whole you were murdered in your back thing, we're past that chapter. We've closed the book on the story of Kamen's murder.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's true.
I want to ask you, Kamen, what's it going to take for us to get revenge on Evan? Like, when do we take him down? I guess is what I'm asking.
I'm not gonna say having his still warm and beating heart in my hand. I think that's a little too far. You know, I think that there's other ways we can punish Evan for his wrongdoings.
Okay.
One of them could be making Evan watch Dune for an entire weekend straight.
Wow.
Just strapped into a chair, Clockwork Orange style, eyes pulled open, and just having to watch Timothée Chalamet.
Okay, I was about to say, is it Timothée or
Timothée? Timothée's, because I want him for 72 hours to feel the pain of seeing Timothée just being Timothée.
Sure.
And I think that's would suffice for me. I mean, we could try to Edward 40 hands him to his Nintendo Switch.
Sure.
And sit him in a chair and force him to play the entirety of Peppa Pig.
Edward Switchy
Hands. That would be fun.
Yeah. I think my ultimate goal in that scenario is to get him. He's watching Dune so much that all he wants to do is turn to the spice.
Oh yeah, he's gonna be addicted to spice.
Give me the spice. If there's one drug from fiction that I wish was real, it's spice. Because what a cool name. Yeah. What a fun little name. Like, is it paprika or is it a drug that'll ruin my entire life and take everything from me?
The cool part of being addicted to spice is that your eyes turn blue.
Ooh, yeah.
And not just like the whole eyeball itself becomes a very vibrant shade of aqua.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Aquaman, you would become.
Aqua lad.
Step aside Jason Momoa. There's a new Aqua lad in town. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Well, let's get into the show. Kamen, we have I don't know why I'm delaying us any further. There's a lot to talk about, Kamen.
It's true. Today popped off.
Today, yeah, we're recording Wednesday of this week, and
on
we had
420.
Blaze it, bro. We had other plans for this episode because it was a slow news week, and then today happened, and everyone was like, put aside the ganj because we got some news to announce. So let's jump into it. But first, let's do a little housekeeping, Kamen.
Let's do it.
This is the Spotlight Games podcast where each and every week, myself and the aforementioned sweetest boy this side of the Mississippi, Kamen Darty, get together to talk about the latest and the greatest in video games. You can get it by subscribing on our YouTube channel. You can get it by subscribing in the favorite podcast app of your choice. You can get it by finding where we live and sitting in the room while we record it live Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on the week, to come out every Thursday around the globe. Don't forget, you can be on the show by emailing us, mail@spotlightgames.net, or you can DM us your thoughts and questions on Twitter @SpotGamesPod or on Instagram @SpotlightGamesPodcast. We have some reader mail today that we're going to discuss here shortly, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Kamen, tell our folks all about the newest episode of Save Trash Cinema.
Yeah, so the latest episode, Save Trash Cinema, is live while you're listening to this. If you've ever questioned what happens when you mix cartoons and porn stars and then throw them into an early 90s horror film, I guess you would call it a horror film. Because we figured that whole thing out. We've solved the conundrum that you're currently living in because the movie we watch is called Evil Tunes. And if you haven't listened to the episode yet, and you're like, "Hey, Kamen, Patrick, I would like to watch the movie before." Guess what? Good news. It's streaming for free on Tubi. This movie is absolutely bonkers. Like I said, I think when we recorded the episode, this could potentially be the craziest movie that we've ever watched.
I
on
think
Save Trash Cinema.
I think actually objectively it is. And I also want to mention, when in the description we say porn stars, cartoons, that would lead me to believe, had I not seen the movie, that this movie is just like porn. It's actually not. These women happen to be porn stars that are just acting in this movie. Is it
that is very true.
Like, is it reductive to call them porn stars in this movie? No, because that's what their profession was, right? So
that is true.
So yeah, if you're concerned that you would be watching porn with cartoons, not the case. There is nudity in this film. There is not sex in this film. Well,
one might even say tasteful nudity.
Sure. One might. I might. You might.
And well, no, I don't want to
Monique
spoil.
Gabrielle might.
Barbara Dare. Best girl. Barbara Dare. I'm not going to spoil it, but we have some surprising thoughts on this film. So I highly recommend checking it out. It's a really, really great episode. We have Mike from the Leprechaun Drunk Cast. He came back on the show,
Mikey,
for the first episode that he remembers. And, look, it's a great time. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check it out because I think you'll like it.
I think you'll like it too. Look, we have a beefy show this week, so let's not waste any more time and jump right into it. We got crazy taxi news. The Rock is making an It Takes Two movie. Xenoblade Chronicles is coming out. There's a new Star Wars game. There's a lot to talk about. First, Kamen, let's talk about what we've been playing. So I'm going to start us off this week with what we've been playing. A couple quick hits for you. Finished Skywalker Saga, Lego Star Wars on Switch. Totally adoring this game. Is it going to be a top 5 game of the year for me? Absolutely not. Sure. Am I going to maybe 100% this game? Maybe. This game is so big. I have finished all of the episodes, all 9 episodes of the movies. And I, in between them, would like do some side stuff every now and then. And I'm only at like 47% completion. There's just so much to do in this game.
Damn.
So I think what I'm going to do is 100% each episode and then see where I feel from there. I don't know that I'm going to, because there's a huge world in this game and there's a lot. There's like over 1,000 puzzles in this game or something like that. It's a lot. It's in the high hundreds, if not 1,000. So I've been playing that. I have also been playing Cyberpunk 2077. I'm like 3 or 4 hours into Cyberpunk 2077. And I want to put a pin in that and come back to it because I feel like I'm still a little too early to start giving impressions. But so far, the early word is I'm not really feeling this game. So, that's part of the reason I want to put a pin in it is because I want to give it more of a chance. But it's just like it's not pulling me back. So we'll get there. But what I want to spend most of my time talking about in this what we've been playing segment, as I put the lower third on the screen because I forgot to until right now, the Halo TV show. So a few weeks ago, I had talked about watching the pilot. I, unlike most of the internet, I really enjoyed the pilot. Since then, 3 more episodes have come out. I have watched all 3 of these new episodes, so I've now watched 4 of the 4 released episodes. And I gotta say, this show gets worse every time I watch it.
Oh my God, no.
It's so, I was so high on it at the beginning, but
wait, do you mean 420 Blaze It Bro high?
Yeah, absolutely. I was soaring through the clouds high on this show. And I just, every episode, I'm just like, what? Like, what are you doing? Because and I'm not going to go too long on this, but I think the most important factor in this opinion, or the main reason, the chief reason, Kamen?
Sure, the chief reason. Good call. Sure.
Is that you might remember the pilot when I described my feelings. I was like, I actually like that they are not telling the story of Halo. They're truly adapting it to their own story. Funnily enough, that's actually the reason why I'm starting to not like it. And what I mean, and the reason I've kind of done a 180 is because while they are continuing to not tell the story of Halo, they're not, in my opinion, sticking true to like the vibe of Halo.
Sure.
It doesn't feel, now that I'm 4 episodes in, I don't feel like this is a Halo show. I feel like it is a sci-fi show with the characters of Master Chief Cortana, Spartans, the Covenant, like all these characters and words, but it just doesn't actually feel Halo. And I think this might sound silly, but I think one of the main reasons for that is the music.
Oh, interesting.
So far, except for one like 6-bar little snippet of episode 4, not once have they used the Halo music. It's all completely new music.
What?
In this most recent episode, they did the thing where they're like, they're having dialogue and then they say Halo, like the name of the show. And then like when they said that, like the like started happening, like, and I was just like, what is happening here? And like there's been a lot of discourse on the internet. People really upset that Pablo Schreiber keeps taking his helmet off. And it's, at first I was like, yeah, no, I'm totally here for it. And like I'm still kind of here for it, but it is funny how little he is actually like dressed as Master Chief. He's just like a dude. It's so weird. It's such a weird choice. And there, right before the show came out, there was online, people were like, the creators had basically said like, hey, we're not really referencing the game for this. And people were freaking out. And a similar story happened a few days ago with The Last of Us. His name, I'm like talking slowly because I'm trying to remember his name, but his name is just not coming to me. The guy playing Joel. What's his name?
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, thank you. I wanted to call him Pablo because Pablo Schreiber is in Halo, but I was like, his name is not Pablo.
Sure.
Where people were freaking out about that because like he didn't play the whole game or whatever. But like in this case, in the Halo case, I'm like, oh, they actually like aren't using the reference material like in a bad way. Like they are just like using the name Halo, I feel like, on this show and using the characters and using the world, but like they're not actually, I don't know. It's starting to become very dissonant for me and not feel like an adaptation. It just feels like this weird like copy and paste, but like I don't know. It's really weird. So I'm gonna I'll check in a few weeks and see. I'm gonna keep watching it, but as of right now, I would actually not recommend watching this if you are a Halo fan. And if you're a sci-fi fan and you don't know anything about Halo, like maybe watch it, but it also kind of isn't very good anyway. But
yeah,
that's the state of my world, what I've been playing and, you know, watching.
I mean, I'm not entirely shocked that the show sucks because video game adaptations rarely succeed. Yeah, they rarely succeed. I think the only one so far that is legitimately set numbers has been the latest Sonic films, shockingly enough. Something that really has, I mean, Evan Brando would probably disagree, but doesn't really have a story that you would think would be a video game adaptation.
Oh, yeah, no. So, objectively, there is no real.
That's exciting. I know when they released the reboot of Mortal Kombat, that like it, at the time was the best video game adaptation. And even that movie, the more I sit on it, the more I'm like, man, that movie was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
The action sequences were cool. Most of them were cool. Only the Sub-Zero and Scorpion stuff was cool. Everything else was trash. Not trash in a good way, just ass.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want these to succeed. I'm hoping and praying to God that The Last of Us turns out.
Oh, right, God, please don't fuck me on this.
Worried. Not worried. I'm not worried. I don't care.
I did also really quickly. You brought up Sonic. I did watch the first Sonic.
Did you?
Within the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked it.
Really? Is it streaming on anything?
It was on Paramount Plus.
Okay. Well, audience, Paramount Plus. You can stream the first Sonic movie there.
Which is also where I've been watching Halo.
There you go. Enough. And if you do want to suffer through Halo like Patrick is, I guess you can do that too.
But what about you, Kamen? What have you? I know the last several weeks it's been the Elden Ring show
It
with
has
Kamen
been.
Darty, and I think we're going to close that chapter today
We are
for now
officially.
until I
Oh,
play it.
until you play it. Officially can say I'm no longer an Elden Lord. I am a Platinum Lord. With my Platinum number 44, I closed out Elden Ring. A character was level 163. I had to do one full playthrough and half of a playthrough. It took me roughly, and this is a guesstimate because, and I'll get to that later, but the guesstimate is around 95 hours total
Okay.
to platinum the game. Now, this is a platinum review. I'm not going to tell you what I think about Elden Ring because I've already told you what I thought about Elden Ring. So I'm going to tell you what it was like getting the platinum, whether I think you should get the platinum, and some of the little intricacies on actually accomplishing that. First and foremost, yes, I think that if you're enjoying Elden Ring and you are playing it enough that you are taking out majority of the bosses and you're having a good time and you think that you can handle the difficulty, then yes, I would recommend platinuming Elden Ring. Mainly because if you don't platinum the game, and I'm not saying that you can't see a lot of things the game has to offer, but if you're looking just to beat the game, um, you're not going to see half of it. There are a lot of really fun hidden boss fights that you need to complete to be able to get the legendary talismans or legendary incantation sorceries or weapons. So you do have to take on some really cool and interesting bosses and get some very cool and interesting weapons that you can use, or sorceries, ash summons, things like that. And you'll visit a lot of places on the map that are almost completely hidden. There are also 3 main endings that you have to get to be able to platinum the game.
Oh wow.
And so the first ending that you can get, you don't have to do anything. You just have to beat the game, and you'll pop the Elden Lord ending. There is the Age of Stars ending, in which you have to complete literally the most lengthy side quest in the entire game, where you can fuck it up several different ways if you don't do it correctly. Then the last ending is a palace location that is, or a catacombs location that is completely missable from by a mile and a half. Like, you have to know it's there to be able to know it, like to get to it. And then doing that catacomb is a huge pain in my ass, and kind of soured a little bit on my experience of getting the platinum because platforming is involved. But almost the whole thing is platforming, and this game is not built to platform. Like,
Sure
not in the
isn't.
slightest. I died more trying to do platforming in this one section than any boss in the entire game.
Really?
Yes. So that
Wow.
was kind of frustrating, but completing it unlocks the final ending, the Lord of Frenzy ending, and it's a very interesting ending. There's a lot of lore in the game. And if you're not doing a lot of these side quests and you're not doing a lot of the optional stuff to get the platinum, you're going to miss a lot of really interesting lore, a lot of really cool stuff that's just kind of baked into getting it. With that being said, I did, in getting the platinum, I had to beat Melania, the Blade of
What
Miquella, who is arguably the hardest boss in the entire game.
what would you say is the hardest trophy on the list? Was it beating her?
No, not in the slightest. I would say the hardest trophy in the game for me was just beating the game.
Gotcha. Okay.
The final boss of the game has no status afflictions that you can cause to it. And so pretty much any build that's reliant upon that is completely ineffective.
What made
And
Melania not easy for you if it's arguably the hardest boss fight in the game?
I think it was a mixture of 2 things. I think on one hand, I was a little bit higher level than I probably should have been. I took her on at like 140 and was able to beat her at 140. Most people, when they get to that point in the game, are about 20 levels less than I.
Gotcha.
However, my build at that point, and it was completely a situation in which I didn't even mean for this to happen. I just found a lot of success with the blood build, using the blood katanas causing blood loss, and then using the swarm of flies blood incantation. And funnily enough, Melania has like, that's her highest susceptibility is blood loss.
Gotcha.
And so it took me, I mean, it took me 5 or 6 tries to do it. Which, I mean, relatively speaking, most bosses took me between 2 to 3 tries. I think Margot, which is like midpoint boss, or maybe the Fire Giant, took me around 10. So there were a few others that were more difficult for me than I think she was. Still not an easy boss by any stretch, but between the build that I had and the fact that I had unlocked the Mimic tier, which that should be like the first summon you try to get, which you have to progress through a story arc, like a side quest to do it. So you can miss it entirely if you miss the side quest.
Interesting.
Between using all of those, I was able to get through, and I would probably look, the game is not easy. The game is incredibly difficult. And if you're not like purposely trying to grind out areas to help kind of give you a boost, it can give you, I think the game could be fairly difficult to platinum, probably a 7 or 8 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. Or something like Horizon, I would put it like a 3, if
Sure.
that. Like
Yeah.
Horizon was incredibly easy to platinum. This is not an incredibly ezy platinum. This is a very difficult game, and you have to beat a lot of bosses to be and do a lot of things to be able to be a high enough level to feel any sort of advantage.
Sure.
Because they can kill you in like 3 hits at the end of the game, regardless of how much health you have. They can kill you in like 3 hits.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, keep going because I have a question that would lead us away from Elden Ring.
Okay. So the last thing I'll say about it is the reason it took me a full game and a half. More often than not, you're going to use 3 if you don't use a save backup trick. So I did have to use a save backup too. I would save beforehand and then turn off auto sync, then go in and I would do one ending and then I'd restart. I'd basically reload the previous save, go back in, pop third ending, pop fourth or second ending, third ending. The one thing I did miss is there's a midpoint in the game in which you can be locked out of a legendary weapon. And so it caused me to actually start New Game Plus to be able to run through.
That's why you did it.
And now I will say it took me 45 minutes to get from the starting point of the game to the midpoint and killed all the bosses in the midpoint, which is like 6 main bosses at that point, 7 main bosses if you don't do an optional side quest to get up to the Altus Plateau faster. So yeah, 45 minutes to basically just run from point A to point B, killing everything and not having a single issue on New Game Plus. Like nice. I literally 3-hit killed Margit, the heart, like the boss everyone gets stuck on at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
3-hit killed it without taking any damage. Like that's how quickly, and I was just burning through them. And so outside of that, that was the only one. I will say you can have someone join your game in co-op mode and they can drop you those weapons talismans. Now sorceries and incantations, they can't do that. So you do have to clear those. But they can do that. I could have done that, but I was like, I'm being impatient. I want the platinum now before we recorded. And so I was able to do that. So ultimately I would say my platinum review is platinum it. You'll miss out on a lot of stuff if you don't. And I think that the game is good enough and it warrants it. Like, and also there's really not much else out right now. So like, there's no reason for you not to do it.
Yeah. So the question I was going to ask was, now that you have beaten, and might I also add, I'm like, when I had made the prediction that this was going to be the game that got you in and you liked, I actually didn't expect you to platinum this game. So I'm very impressed. But my question is, now that you have, because obviously you really loved this game. You've loved playing this game.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it.
Are you going to go back and try, like, give Bloodborne another shake or like Demon Souls, any of these other Souls? Or are you we're just going to wait for the next one? Are you like, from this point on, I'll play them, but.
I will say, I think if Demon Souls on PlayStation 5 drops enough and it gets around that $20 mark, I don't have any qualms picking it up and giving it a shake. I'm a little bit worried that I'm not as good as it seems like I am.
Sure.
Because those games, like in this game, you can kind of level up, feel more powerful, then take on boss. And then also with the summons, they can help with aggro, so you can be a little bit more reckless. I know the previous games don't have that at all.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, if Demon Souls is cheap enough at one point, I'll play it. Yeah. No issue whatsoever, and see if it is something. And there's a chance that like this might have been the game that like got me to be like, yeah, I'm a Souls guy now. There's a very good chance that happened.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that any game in the Souls series before this feels antiquated and just doesn't
that
feel
would be
right.
my concern, because also those games are all pretty linear. Like Demon Souls technically can be non-linear, but it is built in a way that, like, while you can start on like world 6, if you start on world 6 at level 1, you can't win. Like, so it's really a linear game. So I'm interested to see if that ever happens. But yeah, I honestly, I think I'm going to pick up Elden Ring sooner than I thought I would, because hearing the way you've been talking about it the last few weeks, and especially with Cyberpunk just not really hitting the way I thought it was going to, while I'm enjoying Skywalker Saga on the handhelds, I want more of a bigger experience, and sure. I think Elden Ring might be it for me. Well, thank you, Kamen, for the Platinum review. You heard it here first, folks. Platinum the game if you're going to play it on PlayStation. On Xbox, I don't think there's like a thing you get by getting all the achievements. You just get them all, which is
you just get points, which is whatever.
Got 1,000 points.
Oh boy.
Well, Kamen, so we have friend of the show.
Yes.
Nick Sawalski.
Yes.
Nick, I know you're listening. Hello, Nick. He wrote in with a question. So we're going to start the episode proper off with a little reader mail. So Nick wrote in and asked, or he let me know that he's going to be starting up The Last of Us this weekend for the very first time. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to know if we had any tips for him. Mm-hmm. Last of Us, my favorite game of all time. Mm-hmm. I've played this game probably 7 times at least. But I want to turn it over to you, Kamen, first. Do you have any... Also, that wasn't like a big dick swinging competition. That was just setting the stage. Like, I have tips, but I want to hear, like, if you have tips, if you, from your time with, I assume he's playing the remastered version on PS4 or PS5. Mm-hmm. But what tips you got for our sweet boy Nick?
Well, first I want to point out that after last week's episode, I got death threats from Nick.
For Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, I just spoke my mind. I told the truth. They're trying to stifle the truth. He's trying to stifle the truth, but that's fine. Look, it's water under the bridge for me. The Last of Us. Whether you're playing the remaster or you're playing part 2, the most, like, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is to explore every nook and cranny. Because you're going to find supplies, and those supplies are very, very limited in this game, and you're going to need every single bit of it. I will also say is to take your time. The game is gorgeous. The stories and the character moments are what essentially, to me, make The Last of Us a masterpiece. Is that those beautiful story moments. And if you're playing too quickly and you're just trying to rush from point A to point B, you're going to miss a lot of those moments, because there's a lot of small interactions that you can have with Joel and Ellie at certain points that show a prompt. They just don't happen. You have to like click triangle for it to play. If you go past it, you lose it. And those kind of moments are really crucial to helping you build that relationship with these characters while you're playing the game. And then the last thing I would say is, you're going to be using a ton of shivs. Make sure that you have as many as you can have on you at any point in time. And also, a tip from Souls games I found out, and especially Elden Ring, you can run by a lot of stuff. Like, you don't have to kill everything.
Sure.
Sometimes it'll drop ammo, sometimes it'll drop bandages, but especially in areas with clickers, a lot of times you can just sneak right past them.
Great.
And you don't have to engage them. And so don't feel necessary to engage every enemy, because that is the quickest way that you're going to waste all of your resources.
Yeah, those are really great tips, specifically that last one. With the shivs, definitely always at the very least have one on you, because there's a mechanic throughout the game with shivs where, one, it's the only way you can kill a certain type of enemy. Mm-hmm. But 2, there are these doors that are locked that you can unlock with shivs. And if you don't have like a full one,
Yes.
because shivs have like multiple uses. I think it starts out at like 2 uses, and then you can upgrade it to where they have like 3 or 4 uses per shiv. But you have to have a full one to unlock any of the shiv doors. And behind those are typically a lot of resources, or one of the like there's these things that you can unlock or that you collect that can make your guns more powerful and that kind of thing. And so a lot of those are behind these shiv doors. So that exploring every nook and cranny, like Kamen mentioned, you'll usually come across those doors. And if you don't have a shiv, then especially if you're low on resources and you don't have a shiv, then you just missed out on like a gold mine of resources. Because depending on what difficulty you play on, it's a survival horror game, so like you will run out of stuff. If you're playing on easy, you won't. You'll always have a plethora of stuff. Also, depending on like how good you are on your first run, if you play on normal, sometimes you end up having an excess of stuff. But I would recommend probably starting on normal. I think if you were to replay it after the first time, playing like New Game Plus on hard, or whatever the next one, Grounded maybe, could be fun. But starting there, I wouldn't recommend, because the game can be very hard, especially your first time through, when your weapons are not upgraded at all. Your Joel is not upgraded at all, because there's 2 types of upgrades in this game. There's weapon upgrades and then character upgrades. So you can like increase your health. You can, as I kind of briefly mentioned a minute ago, you can make those shivs last longer, so they can have multiple uses. Like there are these things that you can upgrade that both of those you can upgrade at once. And then when you go into New Game Plus, like, usually with New Game Plus, all of that stuff carries over. So your second or third playthrough, you can just be a god and have all of your upgrades and whatnot. But yeah, and then to add on to Kamen's first point, that exploring every nook and cranny, a lot of the story in this game is told through environmental storytelling. So there'll be notes around that, like if you're exploring a house that's abandoned, there might be a note that someone that lived there like left for their spouse who wasn't at home when everything went down. And so like, hey, this is where I'm going. Like these like kind of just like little story threads that happen, that I feel like at the time and also today, kind of, it's one thing that sets the game apart from a lot of narrative driven games, where a lot of the time you're just playing and then there's a cinematic and they'll tell you the story, and then you're playing and then there's a cinematic and they'll tell you the story. But with The Last of Us, like from top to bottom, basically every room you in is telling a story in some way, which is one of the things that I love so much about it. So definitely, yeah, go exploring. And then 2 other quick things. If you can, play in the dark.
Oh yeah.
Because
Headphones are absolutely pivotal for this.
It's not like required, but you'll get a better experience out of it if you can play in headphones, because so it's a survival horror game, but it's also, it kind of is like a stealth first game. So like it wants you to not just run in guns blazing, at least your first way through, because you're not going to have the ammunition to do so. But so a lot of the like headphones will help you being able to hear like if they're behind you, to your left, to your right, etc. That kind of thing. And then also from if you do end up getting to the point where you have like a lot of materials left over, like when you get to like there's like a bottle of alcohol, but you're full. Always, if you get to a point then where you're full, but there's more stuff to pick up, open up your inventory, see if you can build anything. See if you can build a new med kit, build a new Molotov, build a new shiv to make room for these materials, because it's unlikely that your first playthrough you're going to be like overflowing with material unless you play on easy. But sometimes if you leave things behind, you will regret it, because you're about to go to a scenario where you'll need a lot of stuff. And usually if they're giving you a lot, that's the game's way of telling you like, hey, you're about to have a hard few hours or whatever. So
one might say your cheeks are about to be clapped.
Ooh, maybe you might say that.
You might say that.
So yeah, but ultimately I just hope you have a great time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Enjoy it. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah. Let us know as you're playing through it. Let us know your thoughts, where you're at, that kind of thing. Cause I love this game so much. I always want to. My brother recently, I gave him my PlayStation 4 and he played through The Last of Us, and he's now on The Last of Us Part 2. And he's been texting me like,
great.
I fucking hate Abby and all these things. No spoilers. That's just a name. That's just a character. But it's been really fun, like seeing him play through these games for the first time. So, well, Kamen, let's jump in. You know, we've had a meaty conversation so far. Let's jump into a little bit of news, though.
Let's do some news.
Let's do that. So we have a few news stories. This first one we're going to pull from IGN. Kamen, can you tell our audience about this new Amy Hennig Star Wars game?
Yeah. So Amy Hennig is taking another crack at a Star Wars game. This comes from Kat Bailey at IGN. She says, 5 years after Visceral Games' closure spelled the end of Amy Hennig's first attempt at a Star Wars game, the director best known for her work on Uncharted is trying again, this time at Skydance Media. Skydance Media announced today that Hennig is working on a brand new game set in the Star Wars universe. Little is known about the project, save that it will be a richly cinematic action-adventure game featuring an original story set in the Star Wars galaxy. Hennig's new Star Wars game is her second project at Skydance New Media, where she's also working on a completely original game set in the Marvel Universe. Hennig first joined Skydance Media in 2019, where she started a new division based around story-focused experiences that will employ state-of-the-art computer graphics to provide the visual fidelity of television and film, but with an active, lean-in experience that puts the audience in the driver's seat. Hennig was previously employed at EA, where she was working on an unnamed Star Wars project known as Project Ragtag. The project was said to be in the style of Uncharted series, but was delayed and finally canceled as EA shuttered Visceral Games and sought to move the project in a different direction. Reports from Kotaku painted a picture of an ambitious title that was nevertheless at odds with the EA's direction at the time. EA would later release a single-player Star Wars game of its own in Jedi Fallen Order.
So there's a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
First of all, I'm very excited.
Sure.
We've talked about Amy Hennig on this show before. She was kind of one of the original minds behind the Uncharted series. She, I believe, was game director for 1 and 2.
That sounds right.
And she's just very like, she also like way back on PS1 did Legacy of Kain. Like she's a very storied history in the game space, specifically from a narrative perspective. So I'm always like, I was so bummed when Project Ragtag was officially canceled. But the really interesting nugget here for me came in is that I completely forgot the last reason we talked about Amy Hennig was that she was pinned as like being connected to this Marvel game.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, wait, so in what capacity are you working on these games? Like, are you writing them? Are you directing them? Because I don't know that we've ever, from like a high profile game like this, like have someone being directing 2 games at once. Like, I'm really interested. Like, is she just producing them? Would love to hear more about that.
I mean, I guess it depends on how far along in production both games are.
Sure. Good point.
If the game is, almost completely done, or maybe not completely done, but the groundwork has been laid to a point where the game is on its, third leg of production or whatnot. I could see how she could be at this point shifting her focus over.
Sure.
And I know for a fact that she announced on Twitter, she had posted a link to applications where you can apply to work on the game. This game is not coming out for a very long time.
Right. Yeah. This is the beginning of the process.
Because we knew of the Marvel game beforehand, odds are that there is a chance that she could be directing both games. Whereas we might get within the next few months an announcement, like an actual, like, here's a big trailer and guess what? The game's coming out in 4 months or whatever. That's happened before. Specifically, another Marvel game that happened with was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Sure.
Where it was announced, and not even 6 months later, the game was on your doorstep, ready for you to play. And it turned out fantastic. So it depends on how far along the Marvel game is in production, but it also could just be that she's in like a higher capacity role in the company over, farther than game director, where she's, one of the executives. She could be an executive producer or something like that on the game.
Sure.
And having more influence from a production role than an actual game design role. So who knows? But, she's had an incredible career. that's dated now, almost 30 years. These games will be safe in her hands regardless of what role she takes.
I just hope they both get to see the light of day, right? Like, it's been a minute since we've had an Amy Hennig game. And obviously, I mean, the last the last high profile one, I think, would have been Uncharted 2, which is one of the most celebrated and loved games of the modern era. So
I would put Uncharted 2 probably as like one of the top 3 best games ever made.
Yeah, Uncharted 2 will probably be a talking point for an upcoming episode of us for a topic we were going to have today that we shelved for another day. So keep your ears open for that. Cool. So next thing up, Kamen, we have another. So this is a story that made me happy, not for any reasons of, I don't particularly know anything about this game, but this game is on my fantasy team. So I was like, yay, it actually has a release date. It's actually happening. So next story, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 release date has been announced. Got a little B-roll for you sweet YouTube watchers. So this I'm also pulling from IGN. This is by George Yang over at IGN. Nintendo and Monolith Soft have announced that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will launch on July 29th for Nintendo Switch. The game was previously set for a September release date, but it has actually been pushed forward. A new trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was also posted, and a new press release adds some fresh gameplay details, including the fact that you'll be able to battle with up to 7 characters at once. The game follows protagonists Noah and Mio as they navigate the turbulence between the nations of Kevez and Agnes. You know what? I'm just going to stop there. None of this means anything to me. But looking at this B-roll, it looks like a fun game. It looks like a AAA, very Japanese like action RPG, which...
Yeah, it's incredibly Japanese, man. This is borderline Final Fantasy, obscure Final Fantasy game level Japanese. Super fun game, heavy on the JRPG factors. It's more, it's a little, I don't know. I wouldn't say it's less turn-based. There is turn-based in it, but it's also way more action focused. So if you've played Tales from Arise, it feels more like Tales from Arise. But you can kind of customize it to do what you want.
Sure.
Look, game's incredibly fun. I'm glad it's coming out this year, which I think we talk about, just us talking about the fact that not a lot coming out.
Yeah.
So glad that this is. I think it's great. It'll be a fun time for people who love JRPGs, who love just weird RPG games that are silly, way over the top, and it's fun, and it'll probably get, for you, Patrick, it'll probably rake in some really good points.
Hey, that's the goal. That's the hope. Yeah, I've never played one, but I might give this a shot if it reviews well and if there's not a lot to do this summer, because hint for a later topic today, there's not a lot coming out. Okay. So, but looking ahead to the future, Kamen, we have some news about some games that are supposedly, rumor has it, in development. So this is coming from Bloomberg by Takashi Mochizuki. Apparently, Sega is set to be rebooting Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, which... before I jump in, tell me your history with these two games. Have you played them? Like, does this excite you, first off, before I jump in?
Crazy Taxi I played in arcades growing up as a kid. Didn't really play it anywhere else outside of that. Jet Set Radio, I did play. I did play a little bit as a kid. I didn't play much as a child. However, they did re-release it, I think, on the PlayStation 3. And I did get to play it there.
Cool.
My one issue with Jet Set Radio is because I played it in, flash forward, 6 some odd, maybe closer to 10 years later after its release. It didn't control as well as I was hoping. Like, I really enjoyed the music and the atmosphere and everything they were kind of doing with the game. And I could see where people loved it, but it didn't really catch me. It felt a little clunky. at times, and also kind of the game mechanics were a little, I don't know, felt a little antiquated.
Yeah.
I think in a rebooted fashion where you're making a new game from the ground up, I think that all of those issues from before would be taken care of.
Yeah,
I'm way more excited about Jet Set Radio than Crazy Taxi.
I worry honestly for both of these that so recently, about a year ago ish, that new like the Tony Hawk HD game came out where it was like a remaster from the ground up of Tony Hawk
yeah.
1 and 2, and like those games like in a way defined part of my childhood. And so I was so excited for them, and I played that game for maybe 2 hours.
Really?
It's just like I feel like games have just evolved
That's fair.
to where and so like I worry that these might have the same effect depending on what they do with it. So I want to jump in because there is something about the Crazy Taxi side specifically that makes me think that maybe they're not, it might be taking a different direction, which could be cool. So again, this is from Takashi Mochizuki at Bloomberg. He writes, Sega Sammy Holdings Inc., which Sega Sammy Holdings, I guess, is like the parent company name, which I think is a funny name. Sega Sammy Holdings Inc. is developing big budget reboots of its Dreamcast games, Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, as it taps its back catalog in search of global hits like Epic Games Inc.'s Fortnite, according to people familiar with its plans. The two titles would be the first entries in Sega's Super Game Initiative, which the company announced a year ago as an effort to develop recurring revenue sources and build online communities around its software portfolio. Fortnite has become the role model for such games, free to play. It's available across multiple platforms, huge multiplayer, blah, 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 all that stuff. So the new Crazy Taxi has already been in development for over a year, and the Tokyo-based entertainment group aims to release it within 2 to 3 years, the people said, asking not to be named as the information is not yet public. It was named alongside Jet Set Radio in Sega's annual report a year ago on a list of intellectual property assets that Sega wanted to recapitalize by bringing them up to date. Both new games are in the early stages of creation and could still be canceled, the people said. So the interesting thing about this,
sure,
both interesting and actually kind of worrisome, is apparently all of this is because Sega wants, they are, quote, in search of global hits like Epic's Fortnite. So my question is, like, if you're in search of the next Fortnite and you think that maybe Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio could be that, which like they're not, but does that mean like, are we going to be doing like a battle royale Crazy Taxi or like a you know what I mean? Like what does that mean? Like what are you doing to make it comparable to Fortnite? Unless the only way that you're trying to make it comparable to Fortnite is by making money.
Yes.
In that case, well, like that's a stupid comparison. But yeah, I'm very, that it makes me very curious. Like, are they re-envisioning what this game can be, or is this just a cash grab?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, from what I can surmise is that these are going to be more like a games as a service.
Sure.
A Crazy Taxi Battle Royale sounds fucking incredible, and I actually probably would play that because I don't know what that even means. I also find it interesting that they use the phrase "quote unquote" super games, which is stupid.
Yeah,
that's just a dumb phrase. Why would you say that? Take those words, put them back in your mouth, chew on them, swallow, and never say that again.
Yeah.
Look, if you're gonna make a game as a service model for something like Jet Set Radio, that would be cool. How that would work, I have no fucking idea.
No idea.
But I think that works more than Crazy Taxi. Sega's nuts though, so
yeah,
I wouldn't put it past them to find some weird bonkers fucking way to make a set of games that we've never thought about before.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just so like Crazy Taxi specifically, because if you've never played Crazy Taxi, the goal essentially, you are a taxi driver and you have, it's like an ongoing time trial game where like you have to, you might start with 30 seconds and you have to get your first passenger from point A to point B. And then depending on how much time you have left, once you've gotten them to point B, you get a new person, and now you have like maybe 10 more seconds added to that to get them to point C. And like, so it's a race against the clock. And like its most, I think, famous like bit was its soundtrack, like killer soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
But this game started in arcades. It was like one of these, you would sit in the car and like drive around in the car, and then it also came to Sega Dreamcast. But yeah, I don't know. This is just such a weird one. And yeah, the super game thing, which I believe, if memory serves, like a year ago when they announced this, I think super game was specifically, it's like Sega's verbiage for games as a service. But like, dog, we got a word for that. It's games as a service. What is this super game thing? But anyway, we'll be keeping an eye on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking up like to see like maybe I could try to figure something out of this, but you know what? I just gave up after I was like, we're probably gonna get to a point where you can get fucking Guy Fieri's Roadrunner, his diners, drive-ins, and dives car, and you can play as
God,
Guy Fieri in the game.
yes.
Like if you beat Crazy Battle Pass Taxi level 49, you get Guy Fieri. Like, okay, I'd play that.
Yeah, I know you would. You'd be there day one.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's just move on.
Okay, cool. So next thing, this is one that I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Yes.
Because this was your game of the year last year.
It was.
So the story is It Takes Two is having a movie in development. So this, I don't think we talked about this a few months ago, but this was kind of first announced or like leaked a few months ago, but there wasn't anyone like attached to it. But today, as of recording Wednesday, Variety broke that It Takes Two is now in development at Amazon, and it is being produced or co-produced by Seven Bucks Productions, which is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's film studio. And the thing is, like, maybe he might be in it. So this is coming from Variety. This is Joe Otterson. Variety reported in January. Honestly, I actually basically just said everything that's in the article, so I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson might be in it.
I don't like that.
And if he's not in it, he's producing it.
You know what? Actually, I think no, I retract that statement. I do hope he's in it.
As Dr. Hakim.
As Dr. Hakim. I think that if he put on some like just really goofy voice to do it, like the whole Dr. Hakim is the book of love. He's the one who's guiding your titular characters, your characters that you play as.
The titular characters, It and Takes Two.
It Takes Two. May and Cody, and he's the one that's guiding them through all the different levels as like basically a divorce counselor, like a couples counselor, trying to get them to fall in love again. So I feel like if you took The Rock and you made him just be like way too over the top, like Pepe Le Pew, I'm like, okay,
I would be there.
Honestly, I think that's kind of cool, and I would dig it.
But it's Dwayne's studio, so like we know fair. He's going to be.
He's gonna be something in it. Maybe he's gonna be the princess elephant. Like, I would kill to see that too. I think because we were just talking about how video game adaptations are normally dog shit. Honestly, I kind of think that this movie would work.
For
it's
sure.
definitely built up to work, and it doesn't. I would say if I'm producing it, it's gonna be some sort of like a animated film.
Right.
You're probably gonna have live action scenes with the daughter, and while the two characters are in their human forms, the rest of it is gonna be animated. Like, there's no way that it's either gonna be claymation or it's gonna be fully animated. I don't think it really matters. I like claymation, but that takes forever to do, so I doubt that is gonna happen.
I would love it if it was in the style of like Coraline.
Oh my god, that would be incredible. Yeah. But once again, like, that movie took forever to make, and doubt that Amazon's gonna be like, yeah, you can release this movie in 7 years.
Right.
But I think the story of It Takes Two, which the gameplay is a ton of fun, it's addictive, it's varied and interesting, and that's why it was my game of the year. But it was the story that really stuck with me. And I think if you get two really good leads to be able to do the roles, I think you could have a home run here. I don't think it's going to win. You know what? I don't think it's going to win any awards, But if it's done, like the animation's done well enough and the story essentially just follows the story, like I think that this could be a film that might make it up against whatever Pixar's releasing that year.
Sure. I mean, yeah, depending on how it's done, like it's I never finished it. I did really enjoy what I played of it, but this is one of those games for me where like I feel like you don't really got to change much. Like
No,
if what you want to do is just tell the story of It Takes Two as a movie, then it's all there.
it's
Like
100% all there.
it's all there. Like you don't have to do what Halo's doing. You don't have to reimagine It Takes Two. Like
Yeah.
just make it a movie and it'll sell, I'm sure. Especially like I wonder, do you know off the top of your head, and it's fine if you don't, if Amazon ever releases movies in theaters?
Oh, that's a good question. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of like the Netflix thing where sometimes I think there are some Manchester by the Sea was an Amazon original that was
Okay.
released. I'm assuming was released because it won Academy Awards, which
Sure.
part of the Academy Awards, or did they fix that? I know
Yeah, I don't know.
like Monk was nominated. I think Gary, or maybe it was Monk entirely was nominated for an Academy Award. I think for Best Picture, or Gary Oldman was nominated for
Mank.
Mank. When I say Monk, Tony Shalhoub over here. Fucking Kamen, you stupid piece of shit. So Manchester by the Sea, no, he was nominated and won Best Actor for that film. There's a lot of controversy around that.
There
so
was a lot of controversy.
I think and also with The Rock, part of me also thinks The Rock, part of his contract for them to do this would be like it has to be released in theaters as well.
Well, he did do that Netflix movie a few months ago that was like the most watched streaming movie
that
or
dog
whatever.
shit thing that there's
Red
no way
Notice
that
or
movie
whatever.
exists. I don't believe that movie exists in real life.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, I hope not.
No, I legitimately have seen trailers and I'm like, this is a fake movie.
Could be. I've never
It's
seen
an
it.
entirely fake movie.
I can't prove you wrong. I can't
Also,
sit here
I
and tell
just-
you it's not a real movie.
I just refuse to watch anything with Gal Gadot in it either. So
Sure. Although I do really want to hate watch Death on the Nile.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We should do that for like a mini-sode of Save Trash Cinema. 'cause
Ooh,
God,
yeah,
that
let's.
looks like ass.
I would love to do that. I remember 7th grade, I had to read Death of the Nile for school
Ugh.
over the summer. And, or maybe it was just spring break. I, to this day, huge procrastinator. It's my biggest flaw. I love procrastinating. Sure. I remember waiting until like the Saturday before the Monday that I had to have it done to start reading that book. And I read it, but I remember really liking the book as a 7th grader. So, but that movie looks like shit. Anyway, I want to look ahead, Kamen.
Let's look ahead.
And this will be our last, we're bringing it home with our last topic of the day. So I was looking ahead because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm getting a little, so far Cyberpunk's not doing it for me, but I've been wanting something new to jump into. So I pulled up this game calendar from GameSpot. I believe I pulled this from. And I was looking ahead to the coming months of games that are coming out. And I want to pose a question to you, Kamen.
Sure.
Which is, are we about to enter a bit of a gaming drought this summer? Because let me read to you what I have. So, I mean, there's a few other games that I'm not going to mention, but honestly, there aren't a ton. These are the ones that I've put into this list as what I feel like are notable. Any of the ones that aren't mentioned here today, I would argue are not notable. So in April, the rest of this month, so we have 10 more days of April, Switch Sports, pretty high profile game coming out on Nintendo Switch. In the month of May, we have Salt and Sacrifice, which is a follow-up to Salt and Sanctuary, little indie game. We have Evil Dead, the game in May.
Yeah.
There were like 2 other games on the list that meant nothing to me. I'd never heard of.
Sure. In
June, we have one of my most anticipated games, Mario Strikers Battle League, on June 10th. Yes. Also on that day, The Quarry, which is like a spiritual sequel to Until Dawn.
Until Dawn, yeah.
And we have Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course DLC in June. So it's 3 games in June. July, the only game that is worth noting in July is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which was just announced yesterday.
That is false.
Which one? Digimon Survive?
No. Though the Digimon games apparently are very, like, people really enjoy them and normally get relatively decent reviews, which is cool, I suppose.
Which one? Hit me.
Alive.
Oh yeah. So what is this? The name rang a bell, but I couldn't remember what it was.
So this is a reboot, not a reboot. It's like a remaster.
Oh yeah.
Like a 16-bit, not 16-bit, like a 32-bit remaster of this Japanese game that never made it to the States. You could only play like weird ports and emulator versions of it. It's a very interesting game. I
remember that now. You're right. I stand corrected. So that's it for July.
Yes.
August, only game worth noting, Saints Row.
Reboot. I'm fully invested.
Which not a Patrick game, really, but I'm interested in seeing if this reboot does it for me. September, only game worth mentioning, Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, which I think is a game
that sounds like something Evan would play.
October, I'm stopping at October. Forspoken, which is a game I'm very excited about, and Gotham Knights, which is a game I am excited about.
Yes.
That might sound like a lot, but
that's not a lot.
It's really not. Like games that I'm actually actively looking forward to playing. Switch Sports, but I worry that that's not going to hit like Wii Sports did. Mario Strikers.
I don't know if like the Wii Sports might not hit. I mean, it's going to be one of those games that I think that you just pick up and play randomly. Like you don't just sit and play.
Sure.
So maybe that's the not hitting, because it's like I mean that would be a game that like we'd probably play for a weekend or two, just playing with Sid and I, and then every time we have friends over,
sure,
instead of pulling out Mario Party or Jackbox, we put on Switch Sports.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
I could see that.
I hope so. I really hope that is
having long lasting effects.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, for me, like it's Switch Sports, it's Mario Strikers, it's Forspoken, and Gotham Knights. So for me, I have a July, August, September. I have a 3-month window where like there's nothing coming out that I'm interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, my thing is like in May we get the Evil Dead game. I'm a huge diehard Evil Dead guy,
right?
But honestly, like I don't think that game is going to be for me. It looks a lot like Friday the 13th. I think it's done by the same studio.
It is done by the same studio,
and that might be fun to play for a weekend, but I also don't think it would be fun to play without friends. And
right,
you know, I don't know any of my friends who would be like, yeah, I'm very excited about this game.
Yeah.
Mario Strikers in June, you know, obviously Xenoblade Chronicles at the end of July. Like I'd play it. And the truth is I probably will, because there's nothing else.
Right.
Saints Row in August 23rd. And honestly, like part of me, I don't know, part of me thinks that we might not get it in August.
I don't disagree.
They've been very, very mum about it since they announced it. So it might come out. I wouldn't be shocked if it came out, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it didn't. And then, then Forspoken and Gotham Knights. And I don't know, I'm kind of hit and miss on both of those. Like Forspoken looks really cool, and it could be like a really good game, very interesting. I need to see more of it.
Sure.
In action, like an actual gameplay video that's not like, and this is us just jumping through a field, and this is us swinging a hammer from a cinematic angle. Like I actually want to see someone play it.
Sure.
And then Gotham Knights is another one where it's like
cautiously optimistic.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, cautiously optimistic it'll come out. But other than part of me is also like, I wasn't huge on the Arkham games. This looks like it takes a lot of inspiration from the Arkham games. I know Rocksteady's not making this. I want to say the studio who is making this made one of the Arkham games.
Yeah, they're I think it's WB Montreal. They're the ones that did Arkham City Origins, which is unfortunately a lot of people give that game a lot of hate that I think is undeserved. It had a different voice cast. It was like a prequel kind of, but I still think if you like the Arkham games, I thought that was a very good Arkham game. It just, it was a little different.
So I'm a little worried that it is going to be way more like Arkham, like the Arkham Knight series, or not Arkham Knights, Batman, it's the Arkham series. Like, and if it is, then this might not hit for me. And
and it's a multiplayer game.
Yeah, and there might not be anything in the fall or fall winter as of right now that would be worth playing. I mean, in November, well, I mean, I guess I could play Starfield with the Xbox, but
True.
you know, there's that. But even that, I'm like,
Is that gonna come out?
is that going to come out? And
Yeah.
when it does come out, is it going to be worth playing day one?
Sure.
Or is it going to be a fucking train wreck of bugs and shit, and it's just not worth stepping into? So
there
I don't
are.
know.
I added a few games that are undated, so I didn't include anything November and December. But I think the only thing that's confirmed right now is Starfield for November.
Yeah.
But so A Plague Tale Requiem could definitely see coming out this year. I feel like probably a fall game if it is this year. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, I don't think is coming this year. We've not even like seen it. It's the same people that made The Division.
Also,
I don't think this is happening.
I would support the people who make Division if they made another Division, but not a fucking Avatar game. Stupid.
But also, aren't we supposed to be getting another Avatar movie this fall?
We're supposed to get like 8 Avatar movies
this fall.
James Cameron is literally trying at this moment in time, breaking news. I don't know if people know this. He's currently trying to move his brain inside of a robot so he can direct 80 more Avatar films
simultaneously,
and then all release them in the exact same year. It'll be 4-hour-long movies released twice a week
on the hour, every hour.
Twice a week, you're gonna get them on Tuesday. You're gonna get them on Thursday. You're gonna get 2 avatars twice a week for an entire year. And he will do it all from his robot brain while sitting on a throne made of skulls.
Quick sidebar. I honestly can't wait for the next Avatar simply because it has been so long and there's just been so much news about Avatar over the last decade plus. And I just can't believe that there actually hasn't been anything else. Avatar.
I didn't like the first Avatar. I don't think I'm going to like the next 73.
Probably not. Other games that are potentially coming this year, Bayonetta 3, that's one on my list of fantasy games. Not convinced it's coming though, but the rumor is if it's coming, it'll probably come October. God of War Ragnarok, there was actually just an update today where they were like, hey, we still don't have anything to share, which for me is their way of saying, hey, prepare for a delay. So I don't see that coming. Hogwarts Legacy we saw recently, that's supposedly coming, I think maybe like December-ish. Kerbal Space Program 2, Adam Youngblood, really our whole friendship is hanging in the balance on this game. Who knows when it comes out, but if it doesn't give me 30 points, I might come find you and just give you a big kiss somewhere. Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, excited about, probably a fall game. Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals, cool. Don't know that that's gonna might not come out, but I also don't know that that's going to be a game that like puts 2022 on the map. Redfall, this is an Xbox game that was announced at the Game Awards that we've not seen since, which leads me to believe not coming this year. But I mean, it is only April, but like it's almost May. I don't know. Maybe overthinking. And then just a few more: Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Sonic Frontiers, Splatoon 3, Stray, the game where you play as a cat, and then TMNT Shredder's Revenge. So like none of these really, except God of War Ragnarok, jump out to me as like games that I am just like, I cannot wait for.
Yeah.
And God of War is not coming this year.
Yeah. 2022 has already been made. Okay. Look, Elden Ring is going to be talk of the town for the rest of the year. Unless God of War comes out. That might be the only game that's going to rival Elden Ring in terms of like vocalization about how good a game can be. I don't know, like everything else here, there's some really cool stuff that's really exciting if it does come out. And I would say probably outside of the indie games, I don't think any of it will. Maybe Hellblade 2, but that's a toss-up. I don't know, Sonic might, but I would put more money and hedge more bets on something like Stray coming out and TMNT Shredder's Revenge and Kerbal Space Program 2 and Oxenfree. I would hedge bets that we would see some of those.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's not going to set this year. That's not going to be the one at the end of the year where you're like, oh, fuck yeah, bro.
Right. I do think either Redfall or Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 comes this year, only because what is Xbox doing? Like they have Starfield in November, supposedly, but like this is like crickets from Xbox. Obviously they've like bringing a whole bunch of games to Game Pass and stuff, but like from actual game, like Xbox games being released, and those are 2 Xbox games. So like, I feel like one of them's got to come out.
I mean, you could probably say the same thing about Sony at this point. I mean, okay, I'd take that back. I mean, they did release Horizon Forbidden West at the very beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So maybe don't give them as much shit for that, but you're not wrong. Like
Yeah.
Xbox is, and that's been like the whole worry was like Xbox is gonna buy out every studio, and then they're gonna release one game every 4 years, and you're gonna be like, "This is fantastic. I
Right.
wish there were more games."
But they're going to be day one on Game Pass, Kamen.
That's fantastic. That's totally worth my money, hard well spent for paying for that one singular game that gets released every single year and paying $180 for it. I mean, I kid. Obviously, Game Pass is really great and there's a lot of fantastic stuff. So I take, also Microsoft, please don't kill me.
Phil Spencer at your door right now.
He's knocking. Like, I know what you guys are doing in there.
He's going to finish what Evan started. But
We're
yeah, I don't know.
We're going to ruin 420 for you. Bastards.
I don't know. I just looking at this, I'm like, I feel like this might sound hyperbolic and this might sound like I'm being overdramatic, but it's like one of the first years that I can think of in a long time where I'm like, I'm just like not excited about video games right now. Like there's nothing that's like getting me hyped like right now, because like Breath of the Wild pushed to next year. Ragnarok probably not coming. Like these games that I've been looking forward to for a few years, thinking that they were going to come this year, aren't coming this year now. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, Kamen. Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It is a bit of a bummer. Like the front end, I felt like was so stacked.
Yeah. I was like, what a banner year.
We were front loaded.
Yeah.
And now I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can always just fall back and play The Last of Us again and join Nick in doing that.
Sure. I still haven't started my 148th playthrough of Bulletstorm. So
hey,
that should be
every week. I feel like you add another like 45 to it.
Oh, it feels like it's
which I'm not complaining.
I mean, at this point, I think honestly that's probably my best bet, because now that Elden Ring's gone, what is there left? I mean, there's a lot left to play. Actually, I take that back.
Yeah, I feel like
that's a good palate cleanser, though. Bulletstorm.
Sure, it's a good lot of things. I feel like this summer will be a very good backlog season.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's really
jumping
fair.
in, like for me, jumping into Elden Ring. Maybe you and I can play Tiny Tina's Wonderland, like some of these games that we've missed that came earlier this year. Dying Light 2, like Last of Us again.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we're a sweet 72 minutes in, and it's time.
Patrick? That's it, Patrick.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's fucking it.
That's it.
I stand here today as a boy, looking at a boy, to say that's it.
That's it. Bring it back.
We gotta bring it back, dog. We gotta bring back the spice.
Bring back the spice.
The Dune spice. All right, folks, that's our show. Thanks for listening. We'll be here again next Thursday, as we were this Thursday and last Thursday, for another episode of the Spotlight Games Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick Schwag. Kamen's at Kid Kamen. The pod is at Spot Games Pod. On Instagram, Spotlight Games Podcast. Go to YouTube, subscribe, ring the bell. Tell us you love us if you do. Tell us we can do better if you don't. Or just fucking get out of here.
Yeah.
Kamen, thank you for joining me.
Always.
I look forward to complaining about more things next week.
Absolutely.
And until then, I love you.
I love you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.